Hey, well, this was a really successful first week for us in terms of getting on the road for the first time. There's so much behind the scenes that you can't see in preparation and in managing the whole process. That we did a really good job with. We made it through it and all that. We'll find out in a couple of days how we did, but um, it was well done by the staff and everybody had to organize. Players went along with it. The trip worked out great like we wanted it to. It's the first chance for some of our new guys to get on the road with us the way we like going, the new experience of playing in the stadium with nobody there really wasn't a big issue. Um, we can feel how important it is as a club to generate our own enthusiasm and energy and all that. So that's just going to be the way it is, as long as the settings are like this. But it worked out fine. It didn't affect the football at all, and so we're real pleased with the first game.
Ben Arthur.
Hey Pete, from watching over Russell's performance on film, is there anything new that kind of jumps out to you about what he was able to do? You obviously talked about how impressive he was, but is there any other kind of insights or takeaways that you got just from watching it over again?
I think that it just showed his trust in his receivers, and trust in the work that had taken place over the summer. I thought that it kind of carried over. He felt real comfortable with his guys he was playing with, and once the game got rolling, he felt comfortable with the guys up front, taking care of the protection and all.
And then just second thing real quick, with the pass defense, how much of what happened in Atlanta was, just Matt Ryan and his receivers versus, the pull prevent approach, later in the game with, them being so far behind?
Yeah, we felt in control of the game, going kind of in the middle of the third quarter, and they, just with the weapons that they have, they just forgot about the running game and just started throwing it every down. So we just were playing the clock and making sure that we didn't, let them get back in the game. And they're so good. I mean, that's a really loaded talent-wise offense, and Matt Ryan, that's his at his best when he's back there in the gun, sitting back there, and he knows everybody's playing zone and they're waiting it out. He can pick you apart, and he did to some extent. But as long as we controlled the clock and all that, everything was, I don't care about giving up that yards. Those yards that come, they're going to get that when you're ahead like that.
AJ.
What's up, Michael?
I was hoping to ask a little bit more about Ethan and Russell, that chemistry in game one, and what you kind of saw from the two of them, and then also if the lack of fans, I imagine being a starting center is a little bit easier when there's no fans.
Yeah, well, that whole factor was not present. The communication issue was not there at all. So. They were able to, feel comfortable as they did. They really have worked together a lot this whole camp, and it just seems to be a really smooth fit right now. And so, really pleased about that. They didn't have any issues at all. So, and you're right, it does help that the crowd isn't making a difference in the communications.
Corbin.
Hey, Pete, it seemed like really the only thing that was grounding the offense in the first half was the Falcons getting pressure on Russell Wilson, the line struggling a little bit. How encouraged were you, though, after giving up 3 sacks, 7 quarterback hits the first half, to give up no sacks and just 3 hits in the second half with that young group?
Yeah, it was, the first play of the game, we made a mistake and got sacked, had nothing to do with the offensive line. And then Russ will let you know he held the football one time. He missed his read, and they got him. But getting hit and knocked around a little bit was way more than we wanted. But as the game went on, we definitely got more confident, and the timing seemed to work out better. So I'm hoping, let's put to rest, a flurry of 3 sacks in the first half, because that felt terrible. It's exactly how we didn't want it to go, and was really the only negative in it. And it was really just a stat, because we overcame the stuff that happened and made our first downs and all that for the most part. So. But it's just one game. You can't really tell. We got to come out here and play against another really difficult defense to play against, and see how we do against these guys.
John Boyle.
Pete, you mentioned on the radio you guys had Alicia Garza talk to the team. Just kind of how'd that come together, and what was her message? What did you guys talk about?
I had met Alicia a while back, and we had some interaction a while back, and so we got to talking. I don't know, maybe just before camp, but would it be possible that she could take the opportunity to visit with us? And so it took us a while to get that done because she's really busy. But she held just a fantastic meeting last week, and really she just told our guys what the history of the Black Lives Matter movement and phenomenon is all about. She was there at the origin of it, and that was a really awesome session for us to hear it right from home base, what it was all about. And then she talked a lot about voting and tried to encourage our guys on the kinds of things that they could do to be proactive and really just to kind of just fill them up with the background of what's really going on and all that stuff. So it's really, really helpful.
Joe?
Hey, Pete, curious how far DJ Dallas and Alton Robinson are from getting into the active roster on game day.
They're right there. I mean, they were both, on the verge of being on this active roster this week. So they'll be in that same position again. It just depends on matchups and things like that. Both those guys are ready to play, though.
And did you have any other injuries now that you've had a day to get back and get guys back in the building? Do you feel good about?
Rasheem Green, he did get some kind of a pinch, and so we'll have to see how that goes during the week here. But there's still some effects, so we'll see what that means for this game this week. Just really some guys just bumps and bruises from the game for the most part.
Masvita?
Pete, just wondering what you saw from the film from the defensive line, their play overall.
They were working hard. They were all busting it, trying to get to the quarterback. We just got to keep working, work together, take advantage of our games and the movements that we're doing and the things that we can do to heat it up and complement with the pressures that we put on and all that. So they worked really hard and we stayed after it and we're very consistent.
Brady?
Hey, Pete, what level of concern do you have with just the air quality? And are you planning on practicing inside or outside this week?
Yeah, I'm going to wait till Wednesday to see what it is, because it can change pretty quickly and all. We are concerned about it, and I don't know what that means as far as what the likelihood of practicing outside. I don't know. We're going to wait and see what the numbers are. We're going to take care of our guys first, so whatever's best, we'll do that. We won't practice outside just to practice outside. If it's better inside, we'll do that. We did that on Friday last week to take advantage of a better setting here, and we'll just see how it goes. I don't know what it was down in Southern California and in the Bay Area, but those guys got their games in, and I don't know what the fallout from that was. I haven't done any homework on that yet, but we'll get that later in the week.
And also, it looked like on TV that Brian Schottenheimer was coaching from the booth. What is that a permanent thing?
Yes. He really liked it. Thought it worked out well. Was something we talked about in the off season, and so we're going to take full advantage of that.
Thanks.
Sure.
Art?
Pete, this morning you said on the radio that this team is going to be regarding the pregame expressions. You said that this team is forever going to be close because of what you had accomplished with Zoom meetings on non-football subjects, on social injustice. And I'm just wondering, clearly they played very well, no distractions, whatever. What tells you about, what kind of indications are there about the closeness of this team because of what went on in those intense Zoom meetings?
Well, I think that was the start of it, Art. That was, it was very, it was just a very important time for us, and it just happened to capture, I think, the moments of how important it is to share your stories and bare your soul, and there's nothing like that in emotional exchange and when people are really allowing themselves to be vulnerable and to speak their piece and all and to go along with that when there's an atmosphere where it's okay and the vulnerability is kind of rewarded in a sense, where guys get the feeling that it's okay to say what they got to say, and it just changes. It can change the dynamics of relationships, and I don't think it's any different than anything else. But it happened to happen for us, and it just started this thing underway. Like I really can't explain why the Zoom thing was such a important time for us. I still don't have that nailed, but I know it was, and so. We've come a long ways in a short amount of time with the minimal amount of opportunities to interact, and you can just tell. So, I may be wrong. Well, I don't think so, though. I think it's going to be a very important part of our makeup.
Following up, what in 2017 when things blew up about the anthem, and you had the meeting in Tennessee on Saturday, and you came up with an expression on Sunday before the game. What about that episode informed you that you should do something different this time in terms of how letting players express themselves before the game?
Well, first off, that was really the first time that we had gone through the depths of expression and keep going back to vulnerability, and it was too close to the game for a first time meeting. That was a mistake on my part. It was like we had to meet on it. We had to do it, but I just didn't. It just affected us too much, to the negative, and it was just because it was so emotional. It was just too close to game time. It just sapped us some, and we didn't have our normal juice that we have, on a game on the road, and so. Because of that time and all of the other things, we've been through tons of stuff together as a team, and not all the same guys, but the same leadership, basically. And we've been able to navigate now and see things differently. We just see it more clearly. It was back around that time, Art, when our guys were asking questions about Black Lives Matter. If I put the time frames together, they didn't know what it meant to them at that time either, and so we tried to figure it out. And I don't know if you remember, we got Dr. Harry Edwards came and talked to us and tried to make some sense for us and tried to help us, figure out how to communicate. And that was the time when Harry taught us. He taught us about relationships. He taught us about listening. He taught us about the value of sharing your stories, and he also taught us about. A lot of really cool things, but that you got to give a brother some slack, and we're not always going to say things right. And we're going to make mistakes as we venture into new topics and new subjects and new emotional issues and stuff like that. And you have to, what I interpret now is you have to create an atmosphere of vulnerability that it's okay. And it's okay to say what you think, and you might not say it exactly right, and we're not going to hold anything against you. And that's creating an environment for communication that was really critical. And it's taken us a lot of time to personally, for myself too, to understand how to create that atmosphere and make it clear to all players that it's okay. And all of that stuff has happened to bring us to where we are. And so we're better at what we understand now, and we communicate more clearly, and we're more willing. And it's, I hate that it's taken us so long, but it's been a necessary process for us, I guess.
Thanks.
Curtis?
Hey, Pete, you guys used a lot of secondary pressures yesterday, from Jamal Delano to Marquise to Shaquille and Quentin. I think they all came at some different point. What's the balancing act there, and how big of a change is this to implement that sort of a thing to your defense? And what's the kind of like the line you have to walk?
Well, I wouldn't want to tell Coach Belichick anything in particular, but we really like doing it on the second first downs of the series, and we look for opportunities. Not to tell. I don't know. I can't tell you all those answers. Coach Bill, I hope that didn't help you. Well, no, it's just it's a feel thing, and it's a game plan, according to the personnel and, what they do and how they do stuff, and our guys as well. So there's a million variables that go into figuring that out. And there is not a set plan, or, that, every other play or something, you got to do this or do that. So Kenny's got a good feel for it. He's learning his players, and how his players respond to their opportunities, and we'll it's just game one. We haven't learned hardly anything yet, but we're getting there. We're on the way.
Greg?
Pete, it was noticeable in the building yesterday how you had to generate your own energy how much of that is right down your alley of your program? I mean, this is what you designed your program to be, and maybe in some silver lining way, this whole deal kind of fits what you've been preaching for years.
Well, I would tell you that this is a little sidebar. You guys didn't ask for a sidebar story here, but I think the last Rose Bowl that I was coaching in, the media had said that SC didn't want to, didn't care about playing in the Rose Bowl. They'd been there so many times, and it wasn't that big a deal, and they were just doing it, and everything they were saying about it was just made up and all that, and it really pissed me off that they didn't understand what they were talking about, and so because we did love going to that game, so I made a big deal to the team during the process of getting ready for the game that we were going to have as much fun as you could possibly have at a football game and on the sidelines. And so everybody was going to be in it, and we were all going to be cheering for one another and going crazy and celebrating and all that, which is no big deal, except for we're coming out from halftime. The referee came to me and said, if you guys continue to celebrate like that on the sidelines, we're going to have to penalize you. I thought that was the greatest thing I ever heard, that we were having so much fun that they were going to throw a flag on us. And so anyway, so this is a long time that, that we go back to feeling that it's important that you can feel your teammates and you can feed off of your teammates. And really that's all we ever really count on, because we're going to play half our games on the road. And so where you're not going to get any love or any help. And we just want to be that much more fired up when you're playing with your own home crowd. So it's been part of the mentality for a long time. So that was nothing different, really. But it is a unique setting, and so we'll learn as we go. And that was a good first outing. And we're critiquing stuff today. We just want to make sure it's as energized as possible, and we help each other play the best we can possibly play, and whatever that takes, we want to do. And maybe Craig Wolstrat will come over there and tell us, we're making too much noise on the sidelines or something. That'd be fun.
And then a corollary to that, Pete, is it's still unclear, at least to me, is the NFL mandating what level of noise has to be now, or is it still up to the team?
Yes. No, I did. I checked before I came out here because I want to have a better sense for it. Yeah, there is a level that there's a little bit of options with the music that you play in there, as I understand it. But basically, the level's going to be pretty consistent throughout. No, it should be real consistent, depending on how you utilize the music portion of it. I hope that's right. I saw it in writing. I think it was right.
Thank you.
Bob?
Yeah, Pete, obviously, this is Marquise's first game going nickel the whole way. What did you think of his game?
He played well. He had a real good feel for it. Looked very comfortable. Had his impact on the game. Got a couple of chances to pressure. He was in man-to-man zone. Did a little bit of everything. He did well. In that game against those receivers, we needed to be in nickel and all that. So that's I'm really glad that he had the opportunity to get out and get a lot of chances. It's going to help us down the road.
And what did you think of, I guess, looking back at a day later, the running back rotation and just how that sort of went and everything?
First time out, it went fine. With 7 and 6 carries wasn't enough, for our guys, and we need to get more. We were at 20. We want to get more than that in general. But when Russ is complete in every pass, it didn't. We weren't discouraged about the movement of the football. So, but we love running the ball. We always have. And those guys will get more carries as we move down. Down through the schedule.
Jackie?
I was going to ask about the run attack, but I had a follow-up to one of your answers earlier, Coach. Now that you guys have had a few months of just Zoom meetings being the way of life, have you seen any benefit of them kind of translating onto the field and just the relationship building and just how the players, just like accountability or just anything, translate onto the field for you?
Well, I do. I think anytime the team becomes closer and they feel that they understand who the other guys are and they come to know each other better, you have a better chance to communicate more accurately and more consistently. And that's this game. There's so much that happens during the game. There's so much yapping and talking that needs to take place, to get through from one call to the next. And they come to the sidelines and they're feeding off the information they just gathered and the coaches and all that. The closer you can be, the better you can communicate. So it does have a factor, and we played a pretty clean football game first time out, and I know a lot of you would have, you were wondering, and what it was going to be like, and could you go out there and not be sloppy and kind of lousy at your football? Shoot, I thought it looked like a really good demonstration of executing for a first game, maybe as good as we've seen, and so. I think all of that process, like I've been telling you, I hoped that it would show up, and I think it did. I think we have come a long ways under these circumstances, and I'm pleased with where we are and hope we can keep growing from it.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
See you.